You're telling me to live a purposeful life, an intentional life in which I'm owning what will be the end of that dash for me. Will it be a meaningful, significant life of purpose that people remember me for? Will I just be remembered for nothing, right? So I want to have people remember me, and I think
everybody does. Everybody wants to make an impact, right? Like everyone, I don't care who you are. Like everyone has a desire to be needed and to make an impact,
to be significant in what we do.
They do.
Yeah.
Everybody does, right? And the thing is like everyone is significant. Everyone matters. Everyone like everyone's needed, right? And it's everyone. No one's more important than the other in this world that everyone thinks that status matters, right? And it's an aspect to where you just got to be what you want to be, right? Like everybody's, not trying to live to be what someone else wants you to be, but you got to live what you want to be. And, so yeah, with the Dash, right? On the Dash, we, have t-shirts, stuff like that, but we also, are coming out with the new hydration formula. So Dash Hydrate.
Yeah. So talk about that.
Yeah. So, one of the pieces that, the core elements, and that's what the Dash is about. It's like back to the basic stuff. Like when life gets complicated, it's because someone is trying to sell you on what they want you to do.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
Right, it's a distraction, static. And so, I felt like that this hydration formula, look, I work out all the time. I see a ton of them out there. We're pushing it towards the first responder market, the market that I'm at. Like I see a need for it, right? But, it's a hydration formula that's healthy, right? It's no sugar. It's a really tastes great, right? And it's comes from a place that is it's a performance. We talk about it. It's a formula that's made for people whose lives depending on you by people whose lives depend on them.
Yeah, so I'll break it down in my terms. So I'm a caveman, as you know. And I would, right. And I would just pound water when I was working out, thinking like, nothing's better than water. And I would be pissing every 30 minutes in the middle of a workout or a race or something. And I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to use water. It's pure. And then I realized this whole thing about mineral deficiencies and and I just started plowing through all the liquid IV stuff. Like I've tried them all. I mean, I think I asked you, I'm like, before you made your own, what were you using? You're like, hey, listen, we're all kind of rotating in and out. I saw you use the Jocko one all the time, right? And I always said, I'm like, I like it, but it has to be sustainable. Like it has to be a part of my behavior or my habits I could do all the time.
It's built for people that want to perform
every day,
right? And like, I'm not saying you got to go be an ultra marathon. You got to do ultra marathons, shit like that. It's for people who like want to perform, right? Like when you talk about, you take, 10, 15% hydration down, like your mental function starts going, right? Like your ability to think, and make decisions, right? Like it starts to affect those things, right? Like, and everybody's walking around dehydrated, the majority of Americans are walking around dehydrated. So to be able to give them something, and then, you look under nutritionalized, is a whole other aspect. I started in the IV company.
Yeah, so talk about that.
So I started with a company, and because all this didn't just come up like, oh, hey, I'm going to be another supplement brand. Like, let me just throw this at the wall. I started a company called the Dash IV. And I initially started thinking it was going to be for hangovers. Right.
And that's exactly why you'll be at DCAC this year. Every year I have a hangover station, and you guys are the hangover providers, because everyone goes hard in the paint on the first night. Every one of these conferences is about networking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have amazing speakers too, but sometimes it wouldn't even matter who's on stage. They came to meet everyone else that's there, right? Yeah. And everybody got banged up they're going to stay up as long as they can all night long to invest as much time as they can into people they see very rarely. So as much as it's for athletes, it's really for the professionals, in my opinion, that are going to, if they're not going to be able to come see you for a liquid IV, like to actually will get the whole, they need to have this as the alternative for it.
Well, and like in this, so like that was exactly what you're talking about is, we launched it thinking that I was going to fix the problem of, I was going to use an opportunity, but to fix the problem of, hangovers. Because that's what we'd known IVs as. And then COVID hit. And nobody wanted to go see any of these people when they were sick. I was a firefighter at the time. I was on an ambulance, and people started calling me, asking me if I could give them an IV. And I was like, yeah. We didn't shut down once. I would go to people's houses. They would ask me to throw it in like a suitcase. Don't wear my scrubs, but I was not going to tell anyone no.
And you were giving them vitamins.
Yep. So, and I started seeing, this was crazy. I started seeing the impact. We're a generation that doesn't understand the proactive side to health, the side of health of give your body what it needs to do what it does, which is heal, recover, and watch what it does. We're the side of, hey, let me take this pill, let me do something synthetic, whatever, right? And I'm not, let me say this on the other side. I'm not some hippie, right? And it just says, hey, like, let's do this. But I started truly seeing the impacts of these IVs on people.
On their quality of life.
On the quality of life and helping them recover from COVID. Right. So we never shut down. And then we started getting into, started following Huberman, Peter Attia, the giants in the industry. Got with David Drury, who's a PA who's really incredible at this stuff, really mixed up, all these formulas. And then what I did is I was like, well, why are these other hydration places? Why do they what's wrong with their IVs? Like, why do people say it's placebo? And so what I would do is I'd spend once a day, I would call one or two of these places. And what I would do is I'd ask them what their formulas were. And I would tell them, because my doctor wanted to know what was in it before I came and got it. And they were they have an industry. And in the industry, they have what's called conservative dosing. So they put in the very bare minimum as they can. And they're like, hey, look, I'm gonna give you a liter bag. The fluid is what's going to do it. You're going to piss that fluid out, right? Like it's like instead your body really needs the vitamins, right? Like I get you could be dehydrated, but a 500 bag is gonna hydrate you, right? Like, and so we started seeing it. So we developed our own formulas to where it's it is therapeutic dosing. So like you said, so then it evolved, and we still have an IV clinic in Lakeway right now, and we do mobile IVs, we do all that. We also got into the hydrofacial stuff and that aspect of it, the spa side of it. But then I was like, okay, I got these people coming in, I'm seeing the difference that they're feeling. Like I'm watching these people, look, that I tell them, you come to me, and if you don't feel better the next day, then you can have your money back on your IV. And I've never had to give anybody their money back yet. And look, I'm not saying I'm the one that came up with the formulas, but like the guys that I'm with came up with these formulas, and like they're badass. So then I wanted to find something like, how can I substitute in between the days that they're not getting IVs? And so we came up with this hydration formula, in order to substitute in between that, to basically help people stay hydrated, to help people feel better, to help people perform, and help people stay healthy,
I love it. I think that, we'll be able to introduce, you'll be doing your IV drips at DCAC this year. I think we normally go through 150, 200 of those a year, right? And I think the sponsor that we have for that every year is a great outfit, another veteran, former Navy guy like myself that owns that shop, and they've always loved to do the IVs for the obvious reason, right? People come to Austin for a conference, a technology conference. Let's be honest, some people don't come, because of the speakers, and they don't come because of what we're trying to give them. They're just coming because who's all going to be there. They want to network, and they want to go, they're going to network for all 24 hours in the day if they can, and they're going to need an IV drip and some powder. So they'll be able to get their hands on your secret formula. Plus, I mean, how long until you're going to be launching your product that we could put into our own bottles of water?
Should be, I'm hoping November 1st.
Cool. Yeah. Perfect. Well, we'll probably have you back on multiple times as a friend of the show anyway, but there'll be times where we'll be pushing that out because our industry is awesome. I mean, I love the data center. I loved what we did in the military, and I love the military still, but I do love this industry. I don't know of another industry that is as welcoming to veterans as this one, or where there's enough opportunity for veterans to have the ability to literally do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the best part about this industry is how dynamic it is. And we have a lot of conferences, and those conferences have a lot of networking, extreme quote unquote networking, where a lot of people could end up waking up the next day hungover. And I think that these are the types of things that we want to be introducing to those people, because at the end of the day, it helps them have a better quality of life and their output and productivity.
Or just traveling, right? Like, and I tell people all the time, whether you're a single mom that's burning the candle at both ends, that's out there raising their kids, it's, or you're out there, burning it down, trying to network, or whether you're traveling, whether you don't feel good, right? Like any of it, it's just, it's what we say, the Dash IV for all your recovery needs, right?
So the Dash, again, like the genesis behind that was, you're trying to provide us, the consumer, with the tools and the resources we can to own the Dash, to make our lives healthier and stronger. What else do you have, with the Dash as it continues to evolve? Is there other things that you're trying to do? I know that there were some times where you were doing things at local gyms, and you were doing gym circuits, and just trying to get people healthier.
Yeah. So, ultimately, we're about to launch a fitness app called Honor the Oath. Because I think that everything that comes down to you as an individual, and that's what the military taught us, right? Like when you go back to the military, you look at any high performing teams, and this is what a lot of companies have gotten away from. But when you think about the military, like it doesn't matter whether you went in the Navy, you went into the Marine Corps, Army, whatever. When you show up to boot camp, they first teach you how to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. They have a standard for everything, right? Like why, in the Marine Corps, like there was I think General Smith talked about this. He said, why is your ribbons 1/8 of an inch above your left breast pocket centered? Well, he's like, nobody knows, but it's because it's a target for you to try to hit. Like that's why are your bootlaces like left over right with your dog tag the third one up, right? It's because it's like the more profound I can make these standards for you to meet, like then you're going to try to meet those standards, and we're going to be more consistent, and we're going to be able to track more, right? What doesn't get tracked doesn't get fixed. And so what they do is they teach you how to take care of yourself. Like they teach you how they want your beds made, like all that shit, right? And then after you get to where you can take care of yourself, you still see people who can't do that. But the people who get done faster, what do they do after they get done faster? Because they've already had their shit taken care of. They take care of them. That becomes leadership, right? And so I believe that if I can help you get yourself, figure out your rhythm, your routine that works for you. And that's all I'm doing. All I do is ask questions. All I do is provide you opportunities. And then you figure out where you want to be. Ultimately, when you get to a better place, you're going to bring everybody else to a better place, right? And like, that's the same thing with what the Dash is, right? And like, if you're healthier, if you feel better, well, you're going to help everybody else feel better, right? If you're healthier, if you're, like it's the most impactful thing that we can all do on the face of the planet is be an example and live an example. And so that's what the Dash is about, right? And then, we're getting ready to start putting on, probably next year, I'd say next spring, we're going to start putting on leadership conferences. And what all these companies are missing is they don't, like, everybody's suffering. I don't care whether it's brought on or whether it's not, or like whether you do it intentionally, whether it's not, whether it's expected, whether it's not. Like you can either suffer as individuals or you can suffer as a team. And where do the strongest teams come from? Like
stress inoculation,
right? Like why, when we're working out, all I'm doing is
talking shit on me.
Well, talking shit on you, but creating an environment, a controlled environment for you to struggle in.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Like as long as I can make those struggles harder in that environment than what you're going to face daily, everything else isn't a struggle.
I think that what I was able to get from all of our engagements, try to imagine the first time that you came, right? You were giving, every quarter I'd bring my leadership team in for their race cars, right? You bring them off the track every 90 days or 90 laps and see what's squeaking and what's broken, and then you make changes, you tune it up, and you get it as healthy as you can. You send it back out for another 90 days of racing, right? And there's a lot of rubbing and racing in the business that we're in, and you get a lot of opportunity, in real time with these people. When I met with you, the first time, you were giving my team IVs, right? And then they were benefiting as a byproduct of that. In spite of themselves, with the knowledge of knowing what was in that bag, they just knew that this is better than what I'm doing, which is probably a lot of really bad decisions from last night or whatever. And this is going to help me. But the whole package that came with that owning the dash narrative was, I got the IV drip, and then I think you end up staying. And in that time, as you're hooking people up, you're literally filling the cup of every one of those members of my leadership team in ways that I can never do it, right? So there's things that, like, if I was almost like a parent, I could say the same thing to my kids, and that doesn't mean shit. But if a really good secondary influence, it could be a teacher, a coach, another kid's parents, whatever, they could say the same thing, and it's the gospel coming from the burning bush, right? And you came in that one day, and I think that my team at the end thought that we staged that. And I was like, no, not a single chance. That was the first time that you and I really were talking.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
And we covered an entire range of shit in like 2 hours. And we didn't even realize it, but then they were all
around. Yeah.
And then we just had this thing, but you were dumping so much onto them that aligned to the purpose of the dash, right? So I'm like, these guys got it, because everything you do is, you practice everything you espouse. So I know that when I'm coming to you, I know that there's nothing that you're saying that you wouldn't do or haven't done. And you understand that there's a value behind everything. Everything's intentional. So in that point, you were doing that. So when you do your leadership summits, I think that my advice would be, if you're a leader of a business right now and you're in Austin, Texas, and you want to really jumpstart your team, you should call Dakota and have him come to your office and hit your 10, 15, 20 employees. And as he's shooting them up with the stuff that's going to help them be healthier and stronger, thus having a higher output and productivity, you could also pour into their brains some of these things that you're doing, because you're hitting it from all levels, right? It's like energy. It's just like you're hitting the cup here, you're hitting the cup there. And by the time I was done, my team was like, that may have been one of the healthiest things that they've been able to do spiritually and emotionally as well as physically.
Yeah.
And one bang for the buck. So the way you package the dash, I'm trying to help others that are trying to understand it from my context. Is I've done it. I've tried to play on every side of those things you have, and I see the benefits individually as a contributor to my leadership team, and I've seen how it directly contributes to the value of those leaders on my team.
Yeah, and what I try to do is I try to customize it to what your needs are, right? Like at DCAC,
just a bunch of hungover people.
Yeah, a bunch of hungover people, but it's like we're gonna do I'm gonna be talking out there.
Yeah, you're doing the keynote address with me.
Yeah, and we're gonna do a Q&A, and it's and like a lot of people. So I think it's very dangerous. Like my podcast called You're Human. It's a call-in show.
What's your podcast called again?
It's called You're Human.
I want others to be able to find that. So
yeah,
You're Human.
So it's a call-in show, right? Every Tuesday. And the reason I did it that way is because, it's easy to sit down and talk to people in a kind of a controlled environment, right? It's a call-in show where there's no filtering. They're and so a lot of the problem with the world right now, and it's a dangerous thing, is they've gotten into these echo chambers. Like this is the first time in ever that you can choose exactly what you listen to and what you don't. And if you don't agree with it, it means it's wrong, and you turn it off. And so basically you can just literally find your own places to support your own bullshit, which we all know is very, very dangerous. And that's what you see right now. Like their ideas aren't being challenged. So then great ideas are getting left behind sometimes because they're not being put in the pressure cooker and they're not being challenged, and people aren't having to grow because we don't have to stand face to face and we don't have to talk and like we don't have to communicate, and like our ideas and stuff are like they're only challenged when we want them to be challenged, right? And like that's how weakness begins. And
I think that we started when parents started telling kids, don't talk about politics, religion, or these things, because then there could be friction, when the reality is we had to be teaching. Like I intentionally...
lawyers said that. Lawyers started this.
Yeah, well, I've tried to make it to where I'm like, not only do I want my kids to be able to talk about it high, wide, and deep, but I'm like, they should be tolerant of any... Like, just because they don't believe in what we believe in doesn't make them stupid. And try to find a way to have friendships and relationships with people that are completely the opposite. I mean, I have a dozen people that work with me that could not be more opposite than me in every aspect of what they do. But they're a blind spot to me in that sense, and that's why they're there, is to speak and see those things that I don't see.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's like with me, like, man, I don't care. I don't care who you pray to or who you vote for, right? Or who you sleep
Nobody
with,
does
or
in
who
the
you sleep
military.
with. Nobody gives a shit, right?
Nobody cares.
Like I didn't go over and fight for, you know, I didn't go over and fight for white people. I didn't go over and fight for African Americans. I didn't go over and fight for
Democrats.
Hispanics, right? I didn't go fight for Democrats. I didn't fight for Republicans either, right? I didn't fight for Muslims. I didn't fight for Christians, right? Like I fought for Americans. And what people forget is that without all those things, you don't have Americans, right? And all those things that's what makes this country the greatest country on the face of the planet.
I agree.
And, you know, and that's kind of the way that I live. That's the way I teach my kids. You know, I want them to understand that, like, you know, everybody has a different view and everybody's important. And, you know, you shouldn't judge people based off of what they believe. You should you should judge people based off of what they do.
Yeah. Actions only.
Right.
I think, you know, taking that full circle, because I wanted everyone to understand who you were and where you came from. A lot of really intelligent people in this space. Some of them have never been, I mean, think about less than 1% of the U.S. population will ever serve in military, which means that, yeah, it's like cancer in many cases where there's like someone in their family had cancer, someone in their family was in the military, but not everyone has a direct connection. So understanding, you know, where you come from is you wear the heaviest metal around your neck that has ever been made in the military. And I know how much you can't stand, you know, probably hearing that, but the reality is they don't give those things away. And when people that you meet that have earned those things, not posthumously, they tend to have more, they practice what they espouse, they live in a certain way, and there should be a little bit of an orbit around that those of us can benefit from, and you do that. But you also have this own the dash because it transcends beyond the worst day. You've turned the worst day of your life into one of the most meaningful purposes of a career that you could have in your life. I don't know how many people listening to this are going to wake up or woke up today miserable to go to work and they don't love what they do. You and I don't have those problems. Couldn't even understand what that's like.
It's not because we're any better or because we got dealt a better hand or because we were, you know, well, things are different. Like, no, it's because we made a different choice, right? And the choice was that we're going to choose us first with the intentions of being able to help others later, right? And that's the ultimate it, right? Like everything in life, whether you excuse it or not, I don't care who you are. It goes back to the airplane model. Like, if it's going down, they tell you to put what mask on first?
Yeah,
yourself.
Yours first. So that you can help
you know
others.
what? You might be able to, let's say you don't put your mask on first and you go out, let's say you put on 30 people's mask. At some point, you're going to end up not being able to put the mask on for somebody else because you're going to run out of air. And that's the reality of it, right? Like, you know, if you don't take care of yourself, ultimately you're not gonna be able to take care of anybody else. And you know, I understand that. Look, I love taking care of people. I love helping people, but I understand that for me to be able to help more people, I got to help myself, and I have to make myself stronger, and I have to make myself better. And my friend Sarah Verardo, she says that, you know, if you have the ability to do good, you should do good. And if you don't have the ability to do good, you should be spending all your time focused on coming up with the ability to do good so that you can do good.
I think one of the first things that you helped me discover or taught me was there was a guy that was sitting around us and he was like, we were talking about patching together, you know, week after week of staying healthy. And his message was like, I don't have the time. And you're like, bitch, if you work out, it's like lighting this fire that gives you energy to go be way more productive. It's like I always tell my guys, I'm like, you're like the guy that has the flat tire, but you just left Austin and you're driving to Dallas and you refuse to pull over to fix that tire because it takes too long to fix that tire. So you're just going to drive with it broken. And I'm like, but if you stop and fix it, you could catch up real fast and get ahead. And some people are like, yeah, I don't have the time to work out because I'm too busy. And I'm like, well, if you made the time to work out, you would be more productive and less busy, but you would be able to be more efficient in the way you
execute. Do you want me to tell you how I get everybody on this when they start down that road?
Yeah, what do you say?
I say, so pull up your phone And there's this awesome aspect to the phone now called screen time.
I'll tell you what you're using.
And I tell you, hey, give me your 3 problems you have in your life. Give me the 3 things that you complain about the most in your life that you want changed. And then what I want you to do is I want you to look at your phone and your screen time on your phone. And I want you to take 50% of that you spend daily, and I want you to put it solely towards those 3 problems and let me know where you're at in 60 days.
And how's that received?
Well, you eliminate their excuses, right?
Yeah.
You let them know, and actually I'm in the middle of this. I got a book going to a publisher. Yeah, a new book going to a publisher. And I talk about that in this book of most people are walking around life and they don't even know the target that they're trying to hit. Right. So I call it the box method. I give it to my kids. Like I could walk them in here right now and you could look at them and you could say, so it's the box that I expect of them to put every decision through, right? And if it doesn't fit in the box, it doesn't work, right? And so for my daughters, it's to be strong, to be kind, to be respectful, and to be a leader, right? That's the 4 sides of their box, right? And so every decision that they make, every action that they take, like I asked them, hey, did what you just did, does it fit in the box? Well, no, it doesn't. Well, then it was the wrong decision, right? Most people are going through life and they don't even live as conscious of a life as my kids do, right? And they got to back up. They wonder why they're not where they want to be. It's because they don't even know where they're going, right? It's like getting on an airplane without a destination, right? You're gonna have to land somewhere that you don't want to be, and you're gonna be out of fuel. And it's like it's the same thing in life. It's like you can either live the life you want or you can live the life that somebody else wants you to live. And if you're not happy when you wake up every day, like if you're not happy with where you're at, like you have the power to change it. And that's what the Dash is about. Own the Dash is nothing more than empowering people to be who they want to be and what they want to be, right?
In any industry. In any aspect of life.
And it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like
Parents,
and that's where Honor the Oath comes in. Right? Like
what will that app do?
So the app it's a fitness app, right? It breaks down the workout, like so it's all so every
in a community too, right?
In a community, right? So like what we did is it's everybody's digitally connected, right? So you can put your workouts up on there, but like we put out a workout on Sundays. It comes out, and then based off where you would test out the first 2 weeks, right? You do 15 different measurements. And wherever you're at, it decides like if you're a white belt, you're a red belt, green belt, whatever belt, right? And so that's where your plan. So like we could do the same workout, but it scales it based off where your fitness plan is, with the intentions of building up in every
individual growth
in every quarter, individual growth, but suffering as a community.
Yeah.
With the goal of every quarter, you go back to that assessment and you get better.
And you get to measure yourself against yourself.
Yep, against yourself, right?
And then it's all the way up to black belt.
All the way up to
just like a karate belt.
Just like MMA, just like all that, right? And so it's progress, and it's progress through progression, right? Like I mean, it's literally you can make progress through all this, doing this, and it shows you it has a road for you, right? Like, but I believe that all I'm doing, and it doesn't matter. Like you don't have to want to be a firefighter. You don't have to want to be go over and be a Navy SEAL. Like Honor the Oath is about, we all take the oath, and the only oath that we truly owe anybody is to be who we say we are. Right. And the oath of you take oaths. I mean, I'm an oath. I'm a dad, right? Like I'm a fiance. I'm a leader, like all these things. I'm a friend. And I have a responsibility to make sure that I earn all that every single day, and I live up to what the expectations that go along with that are. And that's what honoring the oath is. Honor the oath that you took. You said, if we're friends and I told you I wanted to be your friend, then I should respect you enough to be a damn good friend to you, and I should honor that oath, right? Like oath is nothing more than a commitment. And make a commitment, right? Like be who you want to be, right? Quit walking around. And I have this theory about people walk around and they've gotten so negative because being negative is it raises all your.
It's addicting for a lot of people.
It's addicting, right? Like it's no different than eating that that, big donut, right? You eat that donut, it tastes good, right? Like it makes you feel good because that sugar high. But then what happens a few hours later? You crash and you feel like shit and you're inflamed, right? And so what do? You keep trying to eat more donuts. And so,
well, the negativity also attracts a lot more negativity.
Well, because you know why? Because it feels good, right? It's an emotional response, right? Like that's why people watch all this reality TV shit. Like that's why all this comes down because it makes people like it triggers your emotions. It triggers all that, right? It's almost like, I mean, it's damn near like PTSD, right? Like people get hung in these combat
100%.
zones. And so it's chaos. And so like they have all this chaos and they're just addicted to fucking chaos, right? And so like that's where all this negativity comes. And it's like, let's just take it out. Like, hey, like we don't have to fight. Like there ain't no fighting. Like I want you to be whatever you want to be, right? You want to.
I think for me, owning the dash, it reminds me of when I had cancer. Like, at that time you could have a trivial little argument with someone in your family, or there could be something here and there and all these little things that are, and then all of a sudden when you learn about mortality, everything else just gets, it goes away. I don't know what happens to it, but you don't ever hear it or see it anymore.
Yeah.
And only the things that are most important in life shift to top dead center. And that becomes the only thing worthy of your focus and time, right? And then you could be distracted. I mean, I'm distracted. We all have habits in life, and I'm not going to be a slave to my body every day. I'm still going to go out and have long nights and need IV drips, but I also am going to spend a lion's share of my time being able to, have the ability to do that, whether it's the resources or the health to do that, right? But I mean, I think there's too much of a good thing's a bad thing, but we need to be putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations every day. I think that could be from the podcast that we wake up to and listen to in the morning when we're working out or driving to work to, what we're doing after work. Are we going to go put out and get that workout in before we have that dinner? I think for me, it's doing the things that I don't want to do most and then watching how that changes everything else. Like, remember I was getting I was getting overheated every time when we were in the last 10 minutes, I would always be dying.
Yeah.
And finally I was like, I think my hydration's all shit, and then I'm like powering through all these things, but my hydration was great today. I had other problems, but it's just one thing or the other. There's always gonna be something, but like those little things that I'm tuning up and tweaking on, like I'll fix my eating habits if I work out.
Yeah.
Because if I work out, when I get done working out, I don't want to eat a donut, and I definitely don't want to eat a burger or any of those things, but when I've learned that if I just do that, my body tells me exactly what I need. You have to flip the whole model. Like, I'm going to eat healthy and then I can work out. I'm like, no, just work out and be humbled. And then your body will tell you what changes need to come as a byproduct.
100%, and it's not about like living some stringent lifestyle. It's about like fixing solution-based living.
Well, you do it for a lot of reasons too. Tell people, bringing this full circle is, you're this guy that came from Kentucky and had this incredible, situation and circumstance in your life that in many respects is tragic and in other respects defined every element of the impact that you make on the world today.
Yeah.
Right. And without stress is the only place of growth. Trauma is the only place of growth in some cases. And yours, 1 out of 1 million people would have responded to it in the mindset in which you had, and now you've used it to create a movement for those like us to buy into and be a part of. But you also stay very relevant. Remember one time I was like, Dakota, like I'm not trying to be the man I was, like you've raced you worked out with Caden. Caden beat me by an hour in a Olympic distance triathlon like a year and a half ago. I was like, I'm done doing triathlons with him. I had a son that did a super Spartan with me and he dumped me at mile 2, and I was racing with 10 other medium Spartans. He was going into his freshman year in high school, and he dropped me at mile 2 and beat me by an hour, right? Well, all of us, but I'm like, I'm done trying to be the man when your teenage sons are going to smoke you and everything. Yeah. But I asked him, like, why do you push yourself so hard, carrying your 185-pound dummy around and shit like that? But like those workouts that we do, I'm not saying they're designed for firemen. They're designed to change and save lives, right? And I see that for what it is, but you're a first responder still. I mean, I remember I'm like, why do you still jump on ambulances and put yourself in harm's way and be in fire trucks and going into, I was listening to you on the Rogan podcast, the last one you did, and you're like, to go into this creek and if not you, then who? But those stories, why do you do that? And that's first responder part of you. Is it justice? Is it your motivation? Is it they that?
I mean, it almost feels selfish, like, to be honest with you, like it does almost feel selfish. Like I get so much out of just being able to help people. And like, man, I get on that fire truck and, you know, I get to be what,
That's the fun, it sounds like.
I get to, it's not, it ain't the sexiest job in the world, right? Like,
but it's the most meaningful.
Yeah. Like like when people call us, like they need us, whether it's an emergency to us or not, like sometimes these people that we go and see, we're the only people on the face of the planet that care about them. And, for me, it's like, as long as I can still let them know somebody cares about them, right? As long as I can show up and I can be a positive attitude and I can remind them that somebody on earth cares about them. And I think it's important, right? And, I believe that, and I always say, look, I believe because this is how I believe. And I don't push on anybody else.
Yeah.
But when I hear sirens in the city, when people talk about all the bad, as long as there's sirens still in your city, they're still good. And as long as that's there, it doesn't matter what's going on politically. It doesn't matter what's going on your TV. As long as you can still dial 911 and there are still people willing to show up and try to make your problems better,
there's hope. There's hope,
right? And so for me, like I think it's important, and I think one of the biggest things for my children, and I've got 2 daughters, is to see how important that is, because I want them to be that someday. I want them to know that their dad always cared, right? Their dad always gave more than he took from this country. And it's easy, and I'm not talking down to it, but man, it's easy to stroke a check to a charity. It's easy to do stuff like that and say, hey, look, I did my part, which is very important. It's very important.
And I appreciate you for your service.
But to be able to get on to go and give your time and then your skills and your resources, right? Like, cause it's not easy, like being,
it's thankless. It's very thankless too.
It is. Right. And our first responders our first responders. Like, to me, when you talk about my circle, like you talk about the people that hold me accountable, dude, it's these first responders that I get on a truck with, these men and women who put the uniform on. Like, when you talk about, I'm awed all the time when you talk about the real Batman, you like the closest thing to superheroes.
Yeah.
It's these people, right? Like, when you think about how superheroes are built, right? Like, there's like either the bat, look, hey, the bat signal goes up and a guy who's in normal clothes just changes out of his normal clothes and he puts on some uniform, some outfit, and he goes to try to make whatever problem is thrown out that he didn't cause or anything. He goes and tries to fix it, right? And that's what you see with our first responders. Our first responders are by far the greatest of the generation. These men and women who still put on the uniform, and still go out and serve their communities, and a shit ton of them volunteers. And it's just,
it's
incredible.
A tough time to be those things too.
It is. It's not popular, right? It's not popular. It's overlooked. And that's due to media, right? Like, it's due to, the bad, the terribleness of politicians in the media trying to make them look bad, right? Yeah. Nobody's perfect. Like that's the thing is like when they put that uniform, there's just another human behind that uniform who said, hey, look, I'm gonna try to help other people with their problems, period. But yeah, but still, we as long as we have sirens, the world's gonna be fine.
So I know that you're a pretty ballistic person, dynamic isn't even the right word. You're moving in a bunch of different ways, but all really kind of seems to be focused in the same direction. As we bring this podcast home, what are some of the last messages? Because there's plenty of times I get the benefit of sitting down with you. You're sitting there pouring into my son yesterday or today or whatever, so like I get the benefit of hearing some of these things, but the reason why I've never asked you on before, and just the other day, I'm like, dude, why don't you come on and share some of this with others, is because you inspire me. I know that you're inspiring everyone else that's going to be listening to this too. What other things would you like for them to know, or what would be the challenge or a call to action for them, or what do you want them to know about you if this is the only time they've ever heard from you?
Yeah. Look, like, if you're not, look, if you're not where you're at, like,
if you're not happy,
like if you're not where you're at in life or not where you want to be in life,
good.
Then fix it, right? Do something about it. You know, that's what I tell people. Like, if you're not like, if you are happy, that's fine, right? Like, just be whatever makes you happy. And look, you know, again, happiness it's not emotional. It's about, you know, it's about fulfillment, right? And you know, go out there and look, listen to yourself over the next week. I want you to listen to yourself and what are the 3 biggest things that you complain about? And I want you to start making a difference on those, start changing them, stop just complaining about them and start taking action on them. And if you don't want to take action on them, then quit complaining about them because they're not that important. And, you know, I say, look, hard work, always works.
See, it does solve a lot of problems, doesn't it? How about this? You've written how many books now?
I've got 2 out and I'm on my 3rd one.
All right. So the first one, when did that one come out, by the way? It's a New York Times bestseller. So
it is, yeah. 2000.
Into the Fire? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you did one with
Rob O'Neill.
Okay. And for those, Rob is accredited for?
Rob killed bin Laden.
Right.
Yeah.
And you and him wrote a book, and the genesis or the thesis of that book is really focused on?
You know, it's just focused on like stories of like putting, you know, like basically using military stories.
We're trying to inspire future generations to join the military.
And
we need great soldiers, sailors, and airmen.
We do. Because let me tell you this, like
those stories got to get out there.
The stories got to get out there. So that was that was my second one. This third one is it's a book that's coming out, and it's more about how I have put together, you know, this methodical way to go through life, right? Like the systematic approach to life that's pretty simple, right? And it uses the dash. The dash is a technique, right? So detoxify, activate, support, and habitual, right? So turn around and that's the approach, and it builds, this whole book builds that, you know, for leadership on how to be the best. That's like back to the basics for yourself.
I got you. And then like it is a book written by Marines, so there's going to be a lot of crayons and coloring in that book? Or?
Yeah, it started out like...
Pop up?
Well, it's kind of weird. Like I kept writing or calling my my agent, and he was like, did you write? I was like, yeah, you don't see it? And he's like, no, I don't see it. And I'm like, well, shit. And what happened was I kept writing with crayon on my computer monitor.
Oh, yeah. I can see that happen. Yeah. Listen, you're not supposed to take the joke I have about you and one up the own joke I have on you. Stop. That's like a dominance thing, I'm guessing, right? So
yeah.
What else? How can people find you until the next book comes out? When's the next book come out?
Yeah. Hopefully this fall.
Okay.
All right, we'll see.
And then there's you have your eyes in, you know, you have irons and fires on certain things. What would be the easiest way for people that are listening to you right now that want to hear your own podcast or hear other podcasts you're on?
You know, go to Dakota Meyer 0317 on Instagram. Probably be the best place to go. Yeah, you can go to dakotameyer.com. You can go to ownthedash.com.
And then on Tuesdays, if they want to get on your podcast, they could throw in.
Call in. And
just talk trash at you. I didn't even know this was an option.
People do.
Well, I mean, now that I know that that's an option. I
can't wait. I can't wait.
Well, listen, I appreciate everything you've done. And thanks for inspiring me and everyone in my orbit. I mean, I know that I'm a better person knowing you, and I think that I'm a better leader as a byproduct of that. And I think everybody else that's going to listen to you, they can be better too, right? We're all steel sharpens steel, right? So we are our brother and sisters keepers. We share a lot of the same. There's a lot of things I think that we both have a lot of passion for. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And helping others is one of them. So I'm trying to really make a meaningful impact on this incredible industry that is the best kept secret to most veterans. And at the same time, I'm trying to really also make a bigger impact on those guys. So there's less of them that are out there harming themselves every day, and they're bringing value in an industry that needs them the most. So thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for sharing your story, man.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me come down and be, you know, that you show me off. Like, I appreciate, you know, usually you just make me like clean your toilets and shit. So like, it's really an honor that you'd like let me get on camera. I bet like you mark my face out or something.
Shut up. I'm out there mopping.
I know how it is.
Your gym.
I know how
every
it
time I
is.
make a mess, I pee myself one time in your gym, and I have to mop up the floors every time I'm there. So, but listen, thanks for everything you do. I'm looking forward to having you talk to this entire audience that's listening at DCAC next month. And then over the course of time, everyone's going to get to know what you're doing for the world on Owning the Dash. And hopefully, as a byproduct of that, they can contribute into helping you lead this campaign, this movement on Owning the Dash.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much.
I appreciate it, brother.